el abecedario español or el alfabeto español. Okay? Good. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I. First I'll read it fast. Later I'll focus a bit more on each letter so I can help you to pronounce it correctly. And I'll give you some hints on Spanish phonetics, okay? A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, L, M, N, Ñ, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V or V, W, X, Y, Z. Okay, before reading it one more time, I want to give you some hints on how to pronounce correctly some of the Spanish sounds. So, in Spanish from Spain, so I mean in most parts of Spain in Europe, this would be theta, like the th in English, theta, th, right? However, in all Latin American countries and a few parts of Spain, there is no sound like th, th. Everything is pronounced th, like a simple S, okay? So, since I'm Uruguayan from South America, and I know how everybody else pronounces in Latin America, I can tell you that theta is pronounced zeta, okay, in the continent. In Spain it would be theta. Good. Letter V. It's called uve. Uve. Why? To distinguish it from B, okay? English is more precise than Spanish in the correct pronunciation of consonants. It has always been. Spanish, unfortunately, tends to laziness in pronunciation of consonants. What does that mean? Originally, in Spanish, B and V were distinguishable, right? B, V, same as in English. However, that through laziness, people would pronounce b, 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 everything the same. So, the letter V began to be called as uve, so as not to mistake it for B, okay? And, unfortunately, for many years already, officially, the sound of V and B are the same. What does that mean? That if you want to speak as in good old Spanish and be very distinctive and exact to pronounce B and V, that's perfect. I try to do that. However, if you say B, B to any of both B and B, if you pronounce like that, it's officially accepted and it's the norm nowadays. In our first class, I taught you the Spanish alphabet, and here I'll teach you how to pronounce our letters in Spanish, okay? So I want to focus on a few letters especially to give you a little bit of a background. So, for example, talking of letter Z or Z, okay? In Spanish, it can be theta, okay? Theta, like the English TH sound, okay? Th, like in thug, okay? Theta. This would be the Spanish pronunciation. I mean Spanish from Spain, okay? The European Spanish pronunciation, theta. However, in Latin America, and I'm speaking of all Latin America, theta would be pronounced zeta, okay? So in Latin America, there is no such sound, okay, like the English TH, okay? So it's always the sound, the soft S sound for every time you see letter S, letter Z, and often letter C, okay? It's never th, it's s, okay? In Latin America. In Spain, this would be th. So it's just a matter of pronunciation, right? Not too relevant. Okay, the ñ sound. Ñ is a typical Spanish letter. How is it pronounced? I know this sound does not exist in English, but it does exist in Italian. In Italian, you produce the same sound with a GN, okay? Ñ, like in gnocchi, okay? Gnocchi is a variety of pasta. Gnocchi, Italian, okay? So I know there are many Italian communities in the United States, so maybe some of you are familiar with the ñ sound from Italian. Okay, the ñ is exactly the same as the ñ sound from Italian. Ñ. If you cannot pronounce ñ, the ñ sound, the most similar thing would be NI sound, okay? Like this, for example. Instead of pronouncing ñ, if you're having a hard time with this, you can say Ñ, N-I-E, okay? Ñ, E-N-I-E. This is not exactly the right thing, but it's the most similar to the right thing, okay? Ñ. Once you manage to pronounce Ñ, you can try to pronounce Ñ, okay? Good. Double L in Spanish. Double L has a unique pronunciation, okay? Double L is pronounced same as Y in Spanish, okay? Y is pronounced Y, okay? It's also a pronunciation that does not exist in English. So, for example, the pronoun I in Spanish is yo. Yo. How do you pronounce that Y? It's like if you were unsticking the back of your tongue from your upper palate. Yo. Okay? Yo. I know it's I often hear that English speakers have a hard time pronouncing that. Yo. So, if you cannot, most English speakers, they just pronounce it as a regular I. Yo, yo, which is not the real thing, but it is similar to the real thing, okay? So, you cannot say yo, then you say simply yo, until you manage to make up this sound. Okay, double L is pronounced exactly like the Y, yo. Be careful, the Y is pronounced exactly as a Spanish I here, always when it is at the end of a word, okay? So when the Y is followed in the same word by a vowel, it is pronounced like double L, y, okay? However, when it's at the end of the word, or standing alone, like the word end, which in Spanish is the word Y, just one letter, there it's pronounced like an I. It's pronounced E, okay? Good. Now, in many decades ago, or well, not so many, but some decades ago, there was another letter included in our alphabet, which was letter CH, okay? It was here. Now it has been removed officially from the alphabet, that's why I'm not mentioning it here. But CH, as a letter, was pronounced or read che. Why? Because CH has a unique and independent sound different to C and to H. Therefore, for a long time, the Real Academia Española, the institute that officially determines what is Spanish and what is not, had decided that letter Che would be part of our alphabet after letter C. Okay? Letter H in Spanish is mute, and I mean totally mute. Not like in English, where H is pronounced like a soft exhalation, right? In Spanish it is totally mute, with the only example of CH, right? There it is pronounced like in English, ch. X is x, x, okay? W, letter W in Spanish and letter K here and letter K here are controversial letters from our alphabet, because there is no original Spanish word with W or with K, okay? Therefore, there is some controversy saying that they should be removed from our alphabet. However, they are used for some Spanish, better said, for some foreign words that are incorporated into Spanish. Okay, so for example, the word kilogram, kilogramo, okay, is written with K. Kilómetro, from kilometer, is written with K. Why? Because these are foreign words coming from Greek. Kilo. Kilo means 1,000 in Greek, right? So to mark that it's a word that comes from another language, the K has remained in the word, okay? Instead of using QU, right? We could Castilianize it using a Q. Where's the letter Q? Q and U replacing K. However, there is this will to show that it's a word that comes from a different language, okay? And with W, whiskey, traditionally and still accepted with W, whiskey, because it's a foreign word. However, in the recent decades, it has also been accepted in a very Castilianized way that actually I hate, like this. Whiskey. Okay? Whiskey. It looks terrible. However, it's officially accepted, okay? A Castilianized way of speaking out and spelling whiskey, right? However, whiskey, the English spelling, is also okay and accepted in Spanish, right? Hi there! Let me start saying that Spanish is a mostly vowel-oriented tongue. What do I mean with this? English is very focused and very exact on the right pronunciation of the consonants. So you can easily notice, if you're an English speaker, that Spanish speakers, native Spanish speakers, when they speak English, we are not so good at pronouncing the consonants, the end of the words, right? The double consonants, okay? That's because Spanish, unfortunately from my point of view, tends too much towards laziness of pronouncing correctly the consonants. So the Spanish speakers, we tend to round up the consonants, and sometimes even simplifying double consonants or not pronouncing the last letter of a word if it is a consonant, okay? So that's very unfortunate, but it happens, it's a fact, okay? So on the other hand, Spanish is very vowel oriented, okay? And vowels in Spanish have one single pronunciation, one single sound and it's very flat, very open, okay? So the same inconvenience Spanish speakers have when speaking in English. Their consonants, our consonants, are so lousy, okay? English speakers tend to they cannot pronounce usually very flat vowels, okay? So that's a distinction, a characteristic of Spanish. So a, letter A, is not A, no a, no a, it's a. Letter E in Spanish is E. It's not A, it's not E, it's not E, it's E, flat, E, okay? It's flat. There is no variation in the tone, right? It's one tone, one sound. Same thing with I. For instance, E or E, right? Short, right? E, or long, E. You see, there is no tone. It's not I. With O, it's O, or long, O. It's not O or O, it's O. Simply very flat. Same thing with U, right? Letter U is U. Let's pronounce it long. U. You see, there is no more than one single tone. Therefore, our vowels, while in English this would be A, I, E, O, U. A, I, E, O, U. In Spanish it's I, O. A, E, I, O, U. Okay? Good. So, whatever we pronounce with a vowel, it's just one flat, monotone sound. For example, there is a very common Spanish name that I frequently hear that it's very hard to pronounce in English. Hernan. Okay? This has an accent here. Hernan. Okay, so the E, the H is mute, as I said before. The letter E is flat, E. The letter A is flat, A. Hernan. The N is typical N, and the R, I'll talk about the R in a minute, okay? So, Hernan. Keep in mind, try to pronounce all vowels super flat in Spanish. Good. Let's talk of letter R. Letter R has two different sounds in Spanish, okay? We have the rough or tough R, or hard R, r, and we have the soft R, 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 okay? So when do we have a hard R and a soft R? When the R is at the beginning of a word, it is the hard R, r. When the R is doubled, it is the hard R, r. But when the R is not at the beginning of the word and is not doubled, it is a soft R, 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 okay, r. So let me show you this with an example. What best example than my own name and last name, okay? Which is a good exercise for practicing the R, as you will see now. Rodrigo, that's my given name. Ferreira. Okay? Rodrigo Ferreira. Ferreira is my family name. Good. See how the first R is pronounced R, hard R. This R in the middle is not doubled, it is R, dri. It's not dri, it's dri. Okay? This R in Ferreira, in my last name, is doubled. Therefore it is pronounced R, rei, R. This last R is not doubled and is in the middle of the word, Therefore, it is pronounced R, right? The soft sound. Ra, R, Ra. So this is Rodrigo Ferreira. Let me separate in syllables. Ro, dri, go. Fe, rei, ra. Okay? Rodrigo Ferreira. So, how do you pronounce the R in Spanish? The English R is mainly pronounced with your throat, and the tongue goes rolled back, okay? Right? You roll your tongue backwards, and it doesn't actually touch your palate, okay? Or slightly, very in the back. To pronounce the Spanish R, your tongue is not rolled backwards, okay? It remains forward and slightly touching the front of your upper palate, okay? And it's a sound of the vibration of the tongue near your front teeth, okay? The upper front teeth. But you don't touch your teeth, okay? So let me give you a tip on how to pronounce it easier. And this is not the exact thing, but it's the most similar thing. If you're having trouble, try to pronounce TR, okay, or DR. Okay? So try to say trrr, trrr, or drrr, drrr. Okay? That way you can pronounce the rolling R sound, rrr, okay? I don't know why it is called rolling R sound, but I've heard the English speakers call it that way, so I'm just repeating what I heard. So once you manage to pronounce it tr and dr, just remove the T and the D, and you can say r or r, okay? Or simply r, short, right? Good. So that about letter R. Let me pronounce, before we continue with some more phonetic tips, let me pronounce all the letters of the Spanish alphabet. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, L, M, N, Ñ, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. This Y, to differentiate it from letter I, we call it Y. So this would be Greek I, okay? Y is called Greek I. Why? Because what in English we call I is actually the Latin I. Okay, so this is Latin I and this is Greek I. Okay, in Spanish, Y Latina, or simply Y, and this is Y. In some countries, they can call Y also Y, right? Y. Now, I mentioned before that Y and L are pronounced Y, Y, okay? Like in yo, I, yo. However, in Spanish from Argentina and from Uruguay, I come from Uruguay, we pronounce these two sounds, Y and L, like the English CH, okay? SH, shh. Therefore, the pronoun I, yo, is pronounced sho in Argentina and in Uruguay. The word for rain, which in Spanish is lluvia, okay? Lluvia in Argentina and in Uruguay is pronounced lluvia. Lluvia. So, if you ever come across somebody speaking Spanish and pronouncing the sh sound, which actually does not exist in Spanish, okay? If if a Spanish speaker uses the sh sound anytime, then he's either from Argentina or from Uruguay. Okay? I want to focus on the word Español. We are using letter ñ, Español. If you cannot pronounce ñ correctly, you can say Español, right? Which is not exactly sounding the same, but it is very similar, okay? Español, if you cannot pronounce ñ. Okay? Okay, now let me read one more time the Spanish alphabet so we practice and you get familiar with the right pronunciation, and I'll give you some examples on how we use the letters. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, L, M, N, Ñ, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. Okay? Now before I give you some examples using each one of these letters, let me give you a little bit of information regarding this title. I wrote El Abecedario Español. Why? Because I believe this is the alphabet used for all the Spanish tongues. Okay, and why do I say all the Spanish tongues? Officially speaking, or technically speaking, the word Spanish is not one single language. Why? Spanish comes from Spain, the country Spain, or the Kingdom of Spain. Okay, the Kingdom of Spain has more than one official language. The main of which, the main language is Castilian Spanish, right? That's what we are learning, and that's what's spoken in most of the Spain and in all Latin America, except Brazil, I guess. Okay? Good. So, we are learning Castilian Spanish. However, Catalan, which is spoken in some regions of Spain, is also Spanish. Okay? Basque language is also Spanish. Galician language, which is very similar to Portuguese, is also Spanish because it's an official tongue spoken in a region inside the Kingdom of Spain. Okay? So, technically speaking, Spanish is more than one tongue. So, we are learning Castilian Spanish. Okay? So, this distinction is important because some Spanish peoples who do not speak Castilian but speak Galician or Basque may find it a bit offensive if you say that only Castilian Spanish is Spanish. Okay. Now, word with A. Palabras con A. Palabras con A means words with A. Avión, which is airplane. Avión. Burro, for donkey. Casa, for house. Dedo, for finger. Encuentro, for meeting or gathering. Encuentro. Fábrica, for factory. Golf, for golf, of course. Hidrógeno, for hydrogen. You see how H is mute. Hidrógeno. India, for India, okay? Juego, for game. Juego means game, and I am not talking of game for hunting, but game for playing. Kilo, okay, with K, kilo, can work for kilogram, kilogramo, or kilómetro, or whatever starts with kilo, okay? With L would be loco. Loco means crazy, crazy, loco. Lluvia, rain. Mama, of course, okay? Mama for mom. Or madre for mother. Niño. Niño for boy. Boy, okay? Niño. But niño also works for child. So child is the generic way for addressing either a boy or a girl, okay? Niño would also be child, generic. With ñ, the only word I come up with now is ñoño. Ñoño means silly, right? Silly or not very smart. Ñoño. Ombu. Ombu is a type of tree. Sorry, this is not the best way to learn. Ombu. Maybe let's try another word. Oscar is a name. Actually, all the words that I'm thinking of right now that start with the O sound have an H before, like hombro for shoulder starts with H, not with O. Horrible for horrible starts with H as well instead of O. So now I cannot come up with a word that starts with O, sorry, except for given names like Oscar, okay? So in some Latin American countries you would pronounce Oscar, therefore it has a tilde, an accent. And some other countries like Argentina, you say Oscar, therefore without the tilde. With P we have padre, padre there, for father. Que, for what? There are two words que in Spanish. With the accent, it means what. Without the accent, it means that, right? I said that blah 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 blah. Yo dije que blah 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 blah. Okay? So these are two different words. With R we have río for river. With S we have sartén. Sartén is the pan where we cook a steak, for example, okay? Tío for uncle. Tío. Universo. Universo for universe. Vaca for cow. Whiskey. Okay? Whiskey. It's a foreign word that is accepted in Spanish. Xylophone for xylophone. Okay? The musical instrument. Ting 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 ting. Okay? With Y, yo. Yo is the pronoun I. I go home. Yo voy a casa. With Z, of course, zebra, okay? But I was also thinking of zapato for shoe. This is shoe, zapato. In Spain, they would pronounce it zapato, zapato. In Latin America, it would be zapato. Zapato. Okay? Good. Let's read the words one more time. And this time, I will give you the article of each one of these nouns, okay? Because in Spanish we have masculine nouns and feminine nouns. And now I will give you a hint how to determine whether it is masculine or feminine. This is el avión, masculine. El burro, la casa, el dedo, el encuentro, la fábrica, el golf, el hidrógeno, la India, el juego, el kilo, el loco, la lluvia, la mamá, el niño, el ñoño. Oscar is a given name, so while we can put an article before a given name, right? Like the John, for example, it sounds very unsophisticated, okay? So you can do it, people do it, but in some environments it may be too unsophisticated to put an article before a given name, okay? Ñoño is an adjective. It's not a noun. Therefore, adjectives don't have articles, don't carry articles. However, adjectives in Spanish, when they refer to a masculine noun, they end with O. When they refer to a feminine noun, they end with A. So since this adjective is ending in O, I can see and assume that it's referring to a masculine person or thing, okay? Therefore, I can put the masculine article el ñoño, the silly, okay? El padre, for the father. Que is an adverb, so we cannot put an article here. El río, for the river. La sartén. El tío. El universo. La vaca. El whisky. El xilofón. Yo is a pronoun, so that has no article. You don't say the I when talking about I, me, okay? La cebra and el zapato. Okay, as you may have inferred already, the nouns that end with an O are masculine in Spanish. Therefore, they carry the article el. The nouns that end with a letter A are feminine. Therefore, they carry the article la, feminine. La fábrica. Some Spanish nouns don't finish with A or don't finish with O, okay? Like the word avión for airplane. So, how can we identify whether it is masculine or feminine? In this case, the vowel that comes before the letter N is an O. And this indicates that it is a masculine noun. El avión for the airplane. It is masculine. The feminine would be with A at the end. So there are some nouns, okay, that we can switch from masculine to feminine, okay? For example, like the word for dog, perro, perra, okay? Perro for dog, perra with A for bitch, okay? So it's not the case with avión, because avión has no gender. You cannot have a male and a female plane, right? But for other nouns that can finish with on, right, and that can be switched to feminine, yes, you would add a letter A to convert it to feminine, okay? Letter A would switch to feminine, and ON would be the masculine form, okay? So, word for golf, the golf, el golf, okay? It's an O, the last vowel it's got. Hidrógeno, masculine. La India ends with A, okay? Let's see another that can be a bit difficult to identify. El loco, those are easy because they end with O or A. Oscar is a name. As I mentioned before, names would not carry an article, although sometimes it is used, but it sounds very unsophisticated. Anyway, the rule is easy. If you want to put an article for a male given name, you would use the masculine article, and female article for a woman's given name. Okay? So, sartén. Here, la sartén is feminine. Yes? For the pan where we cook the steak, the flat one. Okay? La sartén, this one is a bit tricky, okay? So for me it's kind of intuitive, but it will not be for you. Maybe, because it's not a no, it's a feminine noun. However, I'm sure there will be many exceptions. So just some other examples like sartén. Actually, once you learn more vocabulary, these will start getting a bit more intuitive. So, good. Yo for I, tú for you, singular, and informal. Why? Because usted means also you, but usted is the formal you. Okay? Él for he, ella for she. Okay? Why did I put usted together with él and ella? Actually, usted means usted means you, formal, and él, ella means he and she, respectively. The thing is, usted, the formal you, is conjugated the same as he, she. Okay? Therefore, when we learn how to conjugate verbs, we will place usted together with he and she because they conjugate, they have the same conjugation always, exactly always, okay? Okay, nosotros for we, right? And nosotras for we when the we is a group of women, okay? So it's the feminine we, okay? So for a mixed or just male group of people, we is nosotros, and for just female is nosotras. Okay? Okay, for plural you, so for you all, we have vosotros. Okay? Vosotros is informal, right? Is the one we would use more often. And ustedes is you all, but formal when addressing a group, a board of directors, for example. However, vosotros, this distinction is only in Spain. It's the Kingdom of Spain, or the country Spain in Europe, right, is the only place where they use vosotros. In all of Latin America, right, where the most of the Spanish-speaking population is located, and a few parts of Spain as well, vosotros is not used whatsoever. Only ustedes is used for meaning you all, so the plural you, right? Therefore, ustedes is used both for formal and informal, okay? So no matter if you're addressing a group of friends, a group of relatives, a group of children, a group of directors of a board, or CEOs, or politicians, senators, presidents, whatever. Everybody will be addressed as ustedes, for you all, okay? In Latin America. In Spain, let me repeat again, vosotros would be the informal and ustedes would be the formal, okay? The thing is, vosotros has a unique verbal conjugation, okay? So if you will use vosotros for addressing somebody, you have to learn how to conjugate the verb for vosotros. However, ustedes uses the same verbal conjugation as ellos or ellas, which means they, okay? So ellos is they for a male group of people, or even for a mixed group of people formed of male and female, men and women, okay? Ellos. And if the group is formed just of women, it is ellas, the feminine, okay? That's because the male form is also used as a generic, okay? So if you have a mixed group with men and women, you would default to the male way of addressing, okay? The ellos, same as with nosotros, okay? So linguistically speaking, remember that masculine form is by default the generic way of addressing. Same thing, if you do not know the gender of a group of people, you default to the masculine form of addressing that group, okay? Ellos, nosotros, or any other way, okay? Okay, now let me read this one more time fast. Yo, tú, él, ella, usted, nosotros, or nosotras, vosotros, or vosotras, ustedes, and ellos or ellas. Let me add vosotras as well, because you all in the Spanish from Spain way also has a feminine, okay? So if you're addressing a group of women, you would say vosotras. A group of men or mixed group, vosotros, okay? Good. Now let me remind you that in Argentina and in Uruguay, those two countries in Latin America, the Y and the double L, instead of being pronounced y, okay, is pronounced like the English SH, sh. So this would be pronounced sho, okay? Sho in Argentina and in Uruguay, and yo in all the other Spanish-speaking countries, okay? Good. So I want to remind you again that él, ella means he and she, and usted is not it, right? There is no it in Spanish. Usted, this pronoun means you, okay? Same as tú, only that tú is informal, usted is formal. And I put usted together with he and she because the conjugation for usted is like the same as the conjugation for he and she, which differs from the conjugation of tú, okay? English has a very simple grammar because in the tenses are exactly the same for all the subjects, for all the personal pronouns, right? Except for this one, third person in the singular. For the present tense, it adds a letter S, okay? The thing is, in Spanish, the conjugations are all different, so that makes it a little bit more complicated as for grammar, okay? Good. And when do we use tú and when do we use usted, right? So tú is informal and we would use it most of the times with friends, with co-workers that we are well acquainted with relatives, with children, right? So if we will address children or somebody that is much younger than us, unless we want to mark a distance, like saying, don't get very acquainted with me, don't feel comfortable with me, don't feel at ease, then we address those people as usted, right? But if not, we would use tú, okay? And we would use usted for addressing elderly people with respect sometimes, okay? If it's our grandfather, grandmother, then we use the tú most of the cases, okay? If we go shopping and we will address the salesman, a salesperson, anybody that we are not acquainted with in the street or at a shop, okay, we will address those people formally, usted, okay? And also for people that are hierarchically higher than us, right? Our boss, unless we are very acquainted already, a board of directors, politicians, Mr. President, okay? And of course, in the army or whatever is military, we always use the usted for a higher hierarchy, okay? So, tú and usted mean the same thing, but this one is informal and this one is formal, okay? Same as vosotros and ustedes mean the same thing, but this one is informal and this one is formal. And remember, this one is not used in Latin America, because in Latin America we use ustedes both for formal and informal. So thanks for watching, and I'll give you some examples and some more insight on Spanish grammar in our next class. Goodbye. This class we are going back to the pronombres personales subjetivos, or the personal pronouns in Spanish, because I want to focus on the right pronunciation and give you a little bit more information, okay? So, for I, yo or yo, right? Yo. Remember that the g sound from y and double l in Spanish is not exactly e sound, it's y. It's like unsticking the back of your tongue from your back upper palate, right? And then pronouncing the e sound, y, right? So this is yo, yo. Ella for her, ella for she, sorry. Ellos or ellas, okay? However, if you cannot come up with this sound, because it's not in the English language, you can simply pronounce it like if it were an I, E, okay? Yo, yo. It is not exactly the same thing, but it is workable, okay? So this would be yo, ella, right? And ellos or ellas, okay? Ellos or ellas, right? And in Argentina and in Uruguay, as I mentioned before, the Y and double L sound are pronounced like the English SH, okay? SH, shh. So this would be pronounced sho in Uruguay and Argentina. This would be ella, ella. Ellos and ellas, okay? In Argentina and in Uruguay. Good. Now, why have I been putting these, writing this H at the end of some vowels here in green for the phonetics? Because in Spanish, all the vowels have to be absolutely flat, okay? Flat. One single sound, one single tone. So, this is not show, or yo, it's sho. Flat, short. Okay, show, not show, show. This is not tu, it's tu, right? Él, ella, right? Usted, u. That's why I wrote double O, u. Usted, right? Usted, flat and clear and short. Nosotros, not nosotros, no, it's nosotros, as flat as you can pronounce each vowel. And for the feminine, nosotras. Same thing with vosotros, you all, right? Vosotros, not vosotros. It's vosotros and vosotras. Ustedes, right? Letter E is pronounced with a very open mouth. Not It's not ustedes. It's ustedes. Right? That's the E sound in Spanish. And ellos and ellas. Okay? Ellos and ellas for for they, masculine and feminine. Okay? Or ellos and ellas if it were Argentina or Uruguay. Okay, now in red I have written 3 points I want you to remember. First of all, that vosotros, you all, informal, is used exclusively in Spain. So no Latin American country uses vosotros whatsoever. Okay? In Latin America, we only use ustedes for formal and informal. Okay? Now, ustedes is conjugated the same as ellos or ellas, the same as they. Okay? And usted, which is the singular of ustedes, right? Usted means you, formal. Usted is conjugated like él or ella, like he or she. Okay? And this same topic, when to use vosotros, ustedes, tú, usted, right? The formal, the informal in Spanish, how to distinguish them, how to conjugate them. I have explained that in lesson number 316. 316. So if you want to get deeper into this, you can try to find my class number 316. So how come we are at the beginning of the course here and there is a class number 316? That's because here I'm remaking the first lessons of my old course because the recording was quite bad. Okay, so one last thing I want to explain in this class is, in Spanish there is no such thing as the English pronoun it, right? So in English you have he, she, it, okay? He and she is for man and woman, right? And it is for animals and things, objects, okay? Sometimes when talking of an animal, of a pet, right? With affection, we can personalize it, okay? We give it a name and we address it as a he or as a she, right? But if not, by default, animals are it, like objects, okay? Linguistically speaking. Okay, in Spanish, the it pronoun does not exist, okay? So things, objects, animals, people are all el, ella, okay? If the object has a masculine article, like el río for the river, then it is a he, él. If it has a feminine article, if it is a feminine noun, like la casa for the house, then it is ella, she, okay? So remember, Spanish does not have an it pronoun. Some Spanish speakers mistakenly say that Spanish has the impersonal article ello or pronoun, okay? Ello is not exactly that, okay? Ello has a different use, a different function that we will learn later on in the course, okay? So for now, remember that Spanish does not have an it pronoun, okay? So that's all. Thanks for being with me. If you like the class, subscribe, click on the like, on the thumbs up, and I'll be glad to see you in that. When I speak of Spanish, I'm actually, to be exact and precise, I'm using the word castellano, Castilian Spanish, okay? Because as I mentioned before, the word Español, Spanish per se, actually includes many different languages. Like Galician is Spanish because it is an official language from Spain, the Kingdom of Spain. Catalan is also Spanish because it is another official language within the Kingdom of Spain, okay? So there are several Spanish languages. And however, the Spanish language that we are learning, the main tongue, the one that is spoken not only in Spain but in all Latin America, is Castilian Spanish, which is Castellano. Therefore, the title for today is Los verbos más importantes del castellano, the most important verbs of Castilian Spanish. As usual, the most important verbs in our language are irregular. And that's the case with these four verbs. These are irregular verbs. In Spanish, we have many more regular verbs than in English. So English has regular verbs and irregular verbs. However, in English, the irregular verbs represent a greater proportion or percentage of the total than in Spanish. Spanish also has a huge amount of irregular verbs. Nevertheless, the regular ones represent a much more significant number, okay? But these, the most important ones, are irregular, okay? So, I won't get deep into verbal conjugation right now because this is the beginning of the course and I don't want to get into something so heavy as verbal tenses. But in order to start making simple sentences and building simple sentences in Spanish, we need a few verbs, okay? That is why I will be introducing in this class at least these four very important verbs in Spanish. And I'll explain to you what they are used for and when we have to use them. And that's going to be very useful for the whole rest of the course. So, ser and estar are two Spanish verbs that are used to and correspond to the English verb to be. I'll say the same thing in Spanish now. Los verbos ser y estar corresponden al verbo to be del inglés. Bien, ahora queremos saber cuándo corresponde usar ser y cuándo corresponde usar el verbo estar. So now we want to know when do we have to use the verb ser and when do we have to use the verb estar. Because in English we have, for both cases, we only have the verb to be, which makes it much more simple, right? I am Rodrigo. I am here, right? I am happy. I am sad, etc. Okay? So, and this is the rule. Ser means to be for more permanent cases or situations. Estar means to be, but for less permanent or for more impermanent or temporary cases. And now I'll give you an example for you to understand this. For example, I want to say, I am Rodrigo, right? Like my name is Rodrigo. I would say, yo, for I, soy Rodrigo, okay? Soy is a conjugation for the first person in the singular, for I, in present tense, for the verb ser, okay? So, soy is verb ser. Yo soy Rodrigo. My name, someone's name is something permanent, okay? Of course, somebody can change his name, that's for sure. But generally speaking, the name is something permanent, okay? So, yo soy Rodrigo, I use verb ser because the name is permanent, okay? Yo soy un hombre, okay? I am a man. Yo soy un hombre. Yo soy un hombre. Okay? I am a man. Or I can say I am man. In Spanish, if we leave out the article, right, it's generic, okay? I am a man. Yo soy hombre, or yo soy un hombre. Someone's gender is supposed to be something permanent, therefore, supposedly, I will always be a man, right? So, we also use the verb ser, okay? Yo soy un hombre, okay? Now, here you can see how and when we use the verb ser, but the verb estar, I'll show you how we use it now. For example, I am happy, right? This is a state that can change from a moment to another. Then we don't use the verb ser, we use estar. Yo estoy feliz, okay? Feliz or whatever other adjective, okay, you want. Yo estoy feliz. I can say yo soy feliz. If I say yo soy feliz, instead of saying that right now I am happy, I'm implying that I'm usually or I'm always a happy man, okay? Why? Because the verb ser is used for something permanent that doesn't have changes, okay? So, if I say yo estoy feliz, I'm saying right now I'm happy, right? This is my present state. If I say yo soy feliz, it's like saying I'm always a happy man, right? This is my state of mind. This is how I always feel, okay? So therefore we would usually use estoy for this, okay? Now look at this one. Yo estoy contigo. Yo estoy contigo. I am with you. Contigo means with you, okay? So again, I am with you. This is something impermanent, right? Because it's not a permanent fact that I'm with you. Right now I'm with you, next year or next minute I can be with somebody else or just by myself, okay? Therefore we do not say yo soy contigo, okay? We say yo estoy contigo, okay? So we do not say yo soy contigo because soy from the verb ser means permanent. But if we were to say yo soy contigo, that would imply, right, an impossible state. That's why the sentence doesn't exist. But it would imply, if we were to use it, that yo soy contigo, that I and you are together, like bonded, right? Bonded and we can't separate. That would be what's implied by saying yo soy contigo, okay? Which is a fiction, of course. If you have any questions or doubts regarding when to use ser and estar, you can ask me any questions, you can post them on YouTube and I'll be happy to answer them. However, in my older lessons, there are a few lessons on this same topic, and also, if you want to practice, I really suggest you to go to my website and open the tests and exercises that are online and totally for free, and there you can practice using ser and estar in exercises, and these exercises and these tests that are free are corrected and are reviewed automatically online, so you will receive the correction right on the spot, okay? So I really recommend those exercises to test how you have understood these examples, okay? Now the other two verbs, haber and tener. The verb haber has two meanings, okay? As an auxiliary verb, it has the same function as the English verb to have. What do I mean as auxiliary verb? Okay, compound tenses in English use the auxiliary verb to have, okay? For example, present perfect, right? I have gone, I have eaten, I have run, I have spoken, okay? So, the auxiliary verb to have, right, is what we use in English for conjugating any other verb in a compound tense. In Spanish, we would use the verb haber. So, for example, to say, I have eaten, I would say, yo he comido. E would be the present tense conjugation of the verb haber. As you can see, it is very irregular. And we will learn the conjugation in some future class. I have run, yo he corrido. She has eaten, ella ha comido. Okay? So, verb haber in Spanish is used as auxiliary verb for compound tenses. Okay? But it also has another use. To be something. Okay? And what does this mean? Okay, not to be like here, but when you say there is this, there is that, there are 3 coins here, there is a dog over there, okay? There we use the verb haber. It is a very special function of verb haber. So for example, if I want to say there is a cat, okay? Sorry. There is a cat. I will say I. Okay? I is a special conjugation of the verb haber. So there is, in Spanish we say hay. Hay un gato. Okay? So un is the indeterminate article a for masculine. Un gato means a cat, okay? If I want to say a female cat, right, I would say una gata with a at the end. Una gata for feminine, un gato for masculine, okay? Hay un gato. If I want to say there are many people, there are, or there is many people, there are many, let's say many, there are many students, okay? There are many students, I would say hay muchos estudiantes. Hay muchos estudiantes. Hay means there is or there are, okay? Muchos means many, countable. Estudiantes for students, okay? Hay muchos estudiantes, there are many students. Okay, so haber is used for as auxiliary verb and for saying there is or there are, okay? Now, our last verb, ahora nuestro último verbo es el verbo tener. ¿Para qué usamos el verbo tener? What do we use the verb tener for? Okay, tener literally means to have something, okay? Not as an auxiliary verb as here, but as the verb per se, okay? So, for example, let me erase the whiteboard to make some space. Okay. Yo tengo un gato. I have a cat. I have a cat. Yo tengo un gato. I have a blue car. Yo tengo un auto azul. Okay? I have a blue car. Yo tengo un auto azul. Good. So this is how we use, or what we use the verb tener for. To say, to have something. Okay? Also, to have two, like the verb to have two, we would say tener que. Look. Tener que means to have two. To have two whatever. For example, I have to go to the bank. I have to go to the bank. So to have to, I mean like to must do something, okay? So we would say tener que. For example, yo tengo, which means I have, que ir al banco. Okay? This is the same as saying I have to go to the bank. Okay? To the bank. The word al is a contraction of the preposition a, which means to go to, right? So al is the preposition a plus the article el, which means the. So a, el in Spanish is contracted as al. Okay? So al banco means to the bank. Okay? So here you have seen how we use the verb tener in Spanish. But let me make one observation here. The word auto for car. Auto is a short form for automóvil, okay? Automobile, right? Automóvil would be the full word. However, even though automóvil is still used in Spanish and it's correct, however, we always use simply the word auto, okay? Right? So same like plane and airplane, okay? We usually use plane for airplane, okay? Same thing with auto. Some countries, they prefer to use the word carro. Carro for car, okay? And it's okay. So in some countries, when they want to speak of a blue car, they will say el carro azul. Many other countries, they would use the word auto. And personally, I believe the word auto is more appropriate because auto comes from automóvil, which you know what it means. It's the cars that are in the street. However, the word carro is a more ancient word, okay? And literally it means cart or chariot, okay? So the word carro, while correct and chosen in many countries, it's a more generic word that can be used for car or cart or chariot, or even used for stroller, okay? The stroller for a baby is also called carro or carrito, which would be the diminutive for carro, okay? So that's why many countries prefer the word auto, which is more, which is actually targeted to the automobile stuff, okay? The cars that are in the street, the modern cars, okay? However, you can choose any of both, and remember that when you're reading or speaking in a Spanish-speaking country, you can actually hear the word auto or the word carro. I'll explain the same thing in Spanish now. Recuerden que cuando estén en un país de habla hispana, Spanish-speaking country, país de habla hispana, podrán escuchar la palabra auto o la palabra carro, pues ambas pueden ser usadas para lo mismo. Both words, ambas palabras, pueden ser usadas, can be used, para lo mismo, for the same word, okay, for the same thing. In English, for countable and uncountable, when we want to say there is something, we have two ways of saying there is or there are, okay? So for plural countable, we would say there are. And for singular countable and for uncountable, we would say there is, okay? Like, there are many trees, there is one tree, there is plenty of water, there is a lot of, let's see, there is very little water, okay? So we use there is or there are. But in Spanish, we only use hay. En español, solamente usamos hay para indicar lo que existe de alguna cosa, ya sea contable o ya sea incontable. Por ejemplo, por ejemplo, hay un libro, there is a book. Hay una casa, there is a house. Hay mucha agua, there is plenty of water. Hay poca agua, there is little water. Okay? Hay muy poca agua, there is very little water. Muy means very, okay? Or hay muchos árboles. There are many trees. Hay un solo árbol. There is one single tree. So, in Spanish we use hay for both cases, there is or there are. Hay, okay? So remember the word hay, which is a very special conjugation of the verb haber. Okay? Then we have cuántos and cuántas to say how many, right? Remember, in Spanish we have masculine and feminine objects or nouns. Every noun in Spanish is either masculine or feminine, right? In English, however, we only have the, right? The objects, the things, the nouns are not divided between masculine and feminine. So this is, you have to take this into account, that in Spanish, if we are talking about masculine things, right? Masculine nouns, which has nothing to do with gender or sex, right? It's just a classification of the nouns, okay? Like television, in Spanish, la televisión is female, and tree, el árbol, is masculine, right? It has nothing to do with gender. It's just a way of classifying the words. So, when we're talking of masculine things, we use cuántos for how many. For feminine would be cuántas for how many, right? For example, ¿cuántos árboles? How many trees? ¿Cuántas casas? ¿Cuántas casas? For how many houses? Okay? Now, for uncountable, right, things we cannot count, like water, like money, like wind, etc., we use cuánto and cuánta, okay? Cuánto for masculine, cuánta for feminine. For example, ¿cuánto dinero tienes? ¿Cuánto dinero tienes? How much money do you have? ¿Cuánto dinero tienes? Okay? Because dinero, money, is masculine. We ask cuánto. Now, water is feminine in Spanish, so we would ask ¿cuánta agua tienes? ¿Cuánta agua tienes? How much water do you have? Now, for many or plenty, right? Countable and uncountable. In Spanish, we have muchos or muchas for countable. Like, for example, tengo muchos libros. I have many books. This is countable. We can count the books. I have many books. Tengo muchos libros. I have many houses. Tengo muchas casas. Right? Casa is feminine. Libro, book, is masculine. Muchos libros, muchas casas. Right? Now, for uncountable, mucho or mucha. Right? Again, let's use the same example with money, dinero, which is masculine, and water, agua, which is feminine. Hay mucha agua. There is plenty of water. Hay mucho dinero. There is plenty or a lot of money, okay? So mucho or mucha are for uncountable. And for countables we have, for countables we mentioned muchos and muchas, okay? Now for little and few, we have for countables, for things and objects, pocos or pocas. For example, hay pocos árboles. There are few trees. Pocos árboles. Hay pocas casas. There are few houses. Okay? And for uncountable would be hay poco dinero. There is little money. Hay poca agua. There is little water. Okay? So pocos and pocas countable, poco and poca uncountable. And last, I want to show you un montón, which works usually for either case, for countable and uncountable. So un montón would be like saying a lot or a bunch of something, right? Montón literally means pile, a pile of something, right? And figuratively, we can use it for either things that can be counted or not. For example, I can say un montón de libros for a lot or a pile of books, right? Or I can say un montón de agua, a lot of water, right? So montón refers to a lot of something, whatever it is. Alright? So let me read all these once again, but in Spanish, and explaining it in Spanish so you can start training your hearing. Tenemos la palabra hay, que sirve indistintamente para contables y para incontables. Así que la palabra hay se usa tanto para indicar there is o there are. ¿Cuántos y cuántas se usan para how many? Para contables, cosas que pueden contarse. Y cuántos con o se usa para masculino y cuántas con a se usa para objetos o cosas femeninas. ¿Cuánto y cuánta sería how much? Sería lo mismo, pero para cosas que no se pueden contar, como el agua, el viento, el dinero, etc. Muchos y muchas para many, o sea, para indicar una cantidad de algo que puede contarse. Muchos son cosas contables masculinas y muchas son cosas contables femeninas. Ahora tenemos mucho y mucha para cosas que no pueden contarse, como el agua, el dinero o el aire. Mucho para incontables masculinos y mucha para incontables femeninos. Pocos y pocas son los contables masculinos y femeninos respectivamente, ¿sí? Y estamos siempre hablando de plurales, ¿bien? Pocos y pocas. Poco y poca sería para incontables. Poco dinero, poca agua, etc. Y un montón puede usarse como comodín, ¿sí? Comodín means it's like the joker in the cards. You have the cards, there is a card which is a joker that can be used in different scenarios. Comodín is the joker in the cards that can be used in more than one situation, right? So words that can be used in different cases or situations are comodín, comodines, right? Like un montón, which works for countables and uncountables, alright? Un montón puede referirse a cosas contables como árboles o casas, por ejemplo, un montón de árboles, un montón de casas. O también puede referirse a cosas incontables, como un montón de agua, un montón de dinero. Hello everybody! In this class, I will start teaching you the question words in Spanish. So these are the if not all, at least most of the question words. Actually, right now I can't remember any other one. So I will teach you exactly when and how these words are used, what they mean, and now we'll see a few examples using each one of these, okay? So, question words in Spanish we would say palabras interrogativas en español. Palabras are words, interrogativas means question words, right? En español for in Spanish. Okay, first of all, ¿quién or quiénes means who, okay? We use quién for the singular and quiénes for the plural, right? So if we are asking who did this and we are meaning one person, implying one person, we would say ¿quién hizo esto? Now, if we know many people did this and we are asking who as which people made this, we would ask ¿quiénes hicieron esto? Okay? For example, then ¿quién hizo esto? Would be who did this, right? Or who made this, okay? And in the plural, let's use another sentence. ¿Quiénes fueron a la fiesta ¿Quiénes fueron a la fiesta? Who went to the party? Who went to the party? Okay, so ¿quiénes is plural, so we're asking who as which persons went to the party. Okay, if we know only one person went to the party and we want to know actually which person went, we ask ¿quién? Okay, so ¿quién or quiénes is who. Fueron is the past of the verb ir, which means to go, okay? However, fueron is also the past tense for the verb to be, right? Ser, okay? Recently, I taught you the 4 most important verbs in Spanish, one of which was the verb ser, right? And soon I'll teach you how to conjugate this verb in all the tenses, okay? Next word, cuando. Cuando means when. When. So, an example is, ¿Cuándo viajarás? When will you travel? ¿Cuándo viajarás? For example, ¿Cuándo viajarás? When viajarás, will you travel? Viajarás is the future tense for viajar, to travel. Okay? When will you travel? Remember, in Spanish, we not only use the closing question tag, question mark, we also use the opening question mark at the beginning of the sentence. This is important because, as you can see, we do not change the structure of the sentence in question sentences in Spanish, okay? In English we do. So in English we invert the order of the subject and the verb, right? So when we are reading, suddenly we see that the sentence begins with the verb and not with the subject. And that's how we realize that it's a question and we have to change the intonation of the phrase, right? In Spanish, however, the structure is exactly the same. Therefore, we need to open the question mark so that when we are reading, we know we have to change the tone, okay? Here, whenever we have a question word, it's very clear, because if any sentence begins with any of these words, we already know it is a question, okay? But we have sentences that do not necessarily begin with these words and still are questions. Like for example, ¿Eres Juan? Are you Juan? Are you John? Right? Now, if I remove the question marks, this is not a question anymore. Eres Juan. Here I'm stating, you are Juan. You are John. Okay? So, the structure is exactly the same in Spanish for statements and for question sentences, right? That's why it is important to open the question mark whenever a question begins. Next question word, ¿dónde? Where? Right? For example, ¿dónde está mi libro? ¿Dónde está mi libro? Where is, está, with a tilde. Where is my book? Where is my book? ¿Dónde está mi libro? Está is verb estar. Recently, I explained verb estar is one of the 4 most important Spanish verbs. Okay? Good. ¿Dónde está mi libro? Again, you can see I opened the question mark. As you can see, all the question words in Spanish have what we call tilde, okay? It is the Spanish accent. The word tilde in English means something different. I know that this is a tilde in English, right? Okay? And I know that in English you call this an accent. However, in Spanish, the academic word for this is tilde. And the word acento, which also exists in Spanish, acento, just means the strong tone, the strong tone that each word carries. For example, libro has no tilde in Spanish. However, the acento, the accent is here, on the I, because this is the vowel that carries the stress, the tone stress, right? We do not say libro, we say libro. The stress is on letter I, right? So here is the acento of the word, even though there is no tilde, okay? So I'm explaining this for you to see that in Spanish, acento is not the same thing as accent in English. Very similar, but not exactly the same. And this is tilde in Spanish. Okay? In my original lessons, I have a series of 6 lessons where I teach you all the rules of the Spanish tildes. So if you want to know when and how you have to use the tildes, which follow very precise rules in Spanish, you can go to the index and find those lessons. Now, ¿cómo? Means how. How, for example. ¿Cómo llegaste? How did you arrive? ¿Cómo llegaste? ¿Cómo llegaste? How did you arrive? The verb llegar, because llegaste is the past tense for the second person, for tú. The verb is llegar. Llegaste is past. And the verb llegar can mean to arrive and to come. So, ¿cómo llegaste? Can mean either how did you come, or how did you get here, or how did you arrive. Okay? Good. Regarding the tildes, Spanish has 4 basic rules of tildes, or of Spanish accents. The fourth rule of tildes explains that there are many words that carry different meanings, and to differentiate the meaning of the same word, when it's one meaning it carries no tilde, and when it is the other meaning it must carry the tilde to differentiate the two words or the two meanings from the same word. Okay, so all these words that carry tilde, here the question words, these words also exist without the tilde, but then they are not question words anymore. They have a different meaning or a different function in a sentence. So you will see the word donde without a tilde, the word cuando without a tilde, the word adonde or the word que without a tilde. However, whenever it is a question word, it must carry a tilde. Okay? Next question word, por qué. Por qué means why. Let's think an example. ¿Por qué no fuiste a trabajar? ¿Por qué no fuiste a trabajar? Why not go to work? Okay? Why not go or not went to work? Okay? So actually, why didn't you go to work? Right? Fuiste, as you can see, fueron. Fuiste is also the past tense, simple past for the verb ir, the verb to go. Only that fuiste is the conjugation for second person in the singular for tú or you, while fueron is for third person in the plural, for they, right? Good. ¿Por qué no fuiste a trabajar? Why didn't you go to work? Trabajar means to work. Now, para qué, this one is very similar. ¿Por qué means why. ¿Para qué means what for. What for? Example. ¿Para qué es esto? Okay, ¿para qué es esto? What for is this. Es a simple present for the third person in the singular, for he, she, it. In this case it would be it. And for the verb ser, or the verb to be. Esto means this. So, what for is this? Or, what is this for? Okay? ¿Para qué es esto? What is this for? ¿A dónde? See? ¿A dónde is very similar to donde. It just carries an A before the D. So, while donde means where, ¿a dónde means where to. For example, ¿a dónde ¿A dónde piensas ¿A dónde piensas viajar? ¿A dónde piensas viajar? Piensas is simple present for second person in the singular, for tú, right? Or you. Piensas, think, the verb pensar means to think. But it's also used in Spanish as to plan, right? To have an intention of something. So, ¿a dónde piensas viajar? Is where are you planning to travel? Where you plan travel. Okay? Where are you planning to travel? actually it would be where are you planning to travel to, okay? Because the letter A at the beginning actually comes from the preposition a. The word a, which is a word of itself, is a preposition in Spanish and is the equivalent to the preposition to from English. So, a donde is where to, or to where, right? So, where are you planning to travel to? Okay? We can also simply ask, ¿a dónde viajarás? Where are you going to travel to? Actually, we can omit this and the sentence is still okay. Now the word que, which is one of the most used ones. Que means what? Okay? For example, ¿qué es esto? What is this? What is this? ¿Qué es esto? What is this? Okay? Remember, in Spanish, we do not change the order of verb and subject, right? As in English for question words. That's why this would be what is this, right? That would be the correct order of the structure. The last one, cuánto or cuántos. Okay, this means how many or how much. So, cuánto, without the S at the end, is for uncountable, would be how much. And with the S at the end would be how many, for countable, okay? So remember, to remember this easily, remember that plurals in Spanish carry an S at the end, letter S, plurals. So, it's logic that would be cuántos with S at the end for things that we can count, that we can pluralize, okay, like trees, coins, birds, whatever, right? And would be cuánto for things that we cannot count, like water, air, money, etc. Okay? For example, oh, and I forgot to tell you that this also, cuánto and cuántos also change to feminine to cuánta and cuántas, okay, for feminine. So, would be cuánta and cuántas, right? Cuánto and cuántos would be for masculine, cuánta and cuántas for feminine. Alright? Now, if you're asking something and you don't know if the thing you're asking about, whether it is a masculine or feminine thing, actually, because nouns in Spanish, it has nothing to do with gender, right? Just some nouns are categorized as having a masculine article and some other feminine article. It has nothing to do with man and woman, or masculine or feminine, or male and female, okay? So, and if you're asking about something and you don't know what would be the right article, then how do we know whether to ask cuánto or cuánta? So the answer is, by default, if we are not sure whether we are asking about something feminine, by default we switch to the masculine form, okay? That's the by default in Spanish. Example. ¿Cuánta agua tienes? ¿Cuánta agua tienes? How much water do you have? Tienes is the verb tener. Tener means to have, okay? ¿Cuánta agua tienes? So, since water, agua, is uncountable, we cannot say 1 water, 2 waters, 3 water, right? So therefore we use cuanta without the S. And in Spanish, the noun water, which is agua, is feminine. It carries the feminine article. Therefore we ask cuanta, right, with A. Now let's use countable, right? ¿Cuántos libros tienes? ¿Cuántos libros tienes? How many books do you have? You see here we are not using cuánto or cuánta, we are using cuántos with S, because books we can count. We can say 1 book, 2 books, 3 books, etc. And since libro is a masculine noun, right, we use cuántos and not cuántas. Remember that nouns that end in O in Spanish, they are masculine, and nouns that end in A, like agua, are feminine, okay? That would be a very basic rule. Okay, let me write down the meaning here so you can see it again. ¿Quién or quiénes means who. ¿Cuándo means when. ¿Dónde means where. ¿Cómo means how. ¿Por qué means why. ¿Para qué means what for. ¿A dónde? Where to. ¿Qué means what. And cuánto or cuántos would be how many. Sorry. Cuántos or cuántas would be how many, and cuánto or cuánta would be how much. How much. Okay? So let's read once again all the sentences. ¿Quién hizo esto? Who did this? ¿Quiénes fueron a la fiesta? Who went to the party? ¿Cuándo viajarás? When will you travel? ¿Dónde está mi libro? Where is my book? ¿Cómo llegaste? How did you arrive? ¿Por qué no fuiste a trabajar? Why didn't you go to work? ¿Para qué es esto? What is this for? ¿A dónde piensas viajar? Where are you planning to go, to travel? Or ¿a dónde viajarás? Where are you going to travel? Or where will you travel? ¿Qué es esto? What is this? ¿Cuánta agua tienes? How much water do you have? And ¿cuántos libros tienes? How many books do you have? So this is the end of today's class. I hope this made it clear for you to understand how to use each one of the question words in Spanish. If you have any questions, don't hesitate. You can write to me, comment in the video on YouTube, right? I'll be glad to answer your questions. And if you need to increase the size of the whiteboard, on the lower right corner of your video screen, you have a button in YouTube to switch to full screen mode, okay? There in the full screen mode, it will be easier for you to see and to read all that I have written here. In this class, I will teach you a bit more about the differences between ser and estar in Spanish. En esta clase les voy a hablar un poco más acerca de las diferencias entre los verbos ser y estar del español. In the first lessons, if you take a look at the compiled video number 1, there I explained that the verb ser is used for more permanent states, while estar for more impermanent. That rule is very important and very useful. However, it's a bit incomplete, and I will complete it with this short lesson. En la primera clase, o mejor dicho, en el primer video compilado, les expliqué que el verbo ser se usa para estados más permanentes y el verbo estar para más impermanentes. Esa regla es muy útil y muy buena, pero falta completarla con algo que daremos en esta clase de hoy. So, Spanish verbs ser and estar, they both translate as the verb to be from English. El verbo ser y el verbo estar, los dos se traducen como el verbo to be del inglés. So, the verb ser is always used when we are telling the time, right? So, for example, es la 1 de la tarde, it is 1 o'clock, or dentro de poco serán las 3 de la tarde, soon it's gonna be 3 in the afternoon, okay? So for telling the time, always we use the verb ser. Así que usamos el verbo ser siempre que vamos a indicar la hora o decir la hora. And we use the verb estar always when referring to the location of something or somebody. Usamos el verbo estar siempre que hacemos referencia o estamos hablando de la ubicación de alguna cosa o de alguien. Por ejemplo, for example, yo estoy aquí. I am here. Yo estoy aquí. I am using the verb estar. Estoy en casa. I am at home. El árbol está allá afuera. The tree is outside. Okay? So every reference to a location of something or somebody always uses the verb estar. Toda ubicación de cualquier cosa o cualquier persona siempre se hace referencia con el verbo estar, not the verb ser. For example, also when we are saying that we are with somebody, right? Estoy con mi hermano. I am with my brother. I am here with my brother. Estoy aquí con mi hermano. So also when referring to being with somebody. So being at certain location, and also being with somebody. With something or someone, okay? With something or someone. Some more examples, let's see. I'm right now with you. Ahora estoy con ustedes. Estoy is verb estar in the present tense, okay? Ahora son las 12 del mediodía. Right now it is 12 noon, okay? 12 at noon. So for the time, ahora son las 12. We use the verb ser for time. Dentro de una hora, in 1 hour, va a ser la 1 de la tarde. It's gonna be 1 o'clock. Va a ser, again, ser, because I'm talking of time, okay? Now, I want to say, let's combine this. A la 1 de la tarde estaré en casa. Okay? Look at this. A la 1 de la tarde estaré en casa. At 1 in the afternoon. At 1 in the afternoon. De la tarde means of the afternoon. Estaré, I will be, en casa, at home. Okay? So here we are talking about time. However, the verb is not referring to the time. The verb is referring to the place, the location where I will be at 1 o'clock, okay? So the verb is not referring to time. The verb is referring to location. Therefore, we use the verb estar, okay? This sentence has a location and a time reference, okay? But don't get confused. The verb is referring to the location. Therefore, we use verb estar. Okay, this short class was mainly to give you this short rule to add to what we already had. So, ser, always when telling the time. Estar, always when referring to a location or being with somebody or being with something. Okay? In this class, I will introduce what I believe are the 10 most important verbs in Spanish. There are many lists on the internet. I've seen a few of them, and I never agreed 100% with each list I've seen on the web. This is always an arbitrary list that each one makes up. So somebody may not agree with my list, right? It's always arbitrary. However, I will share with you the reasoning behind why I chose these 10 verbs as the most important ones. And I'm sure my reasoning is pretty accurate. So I think it's a good idea to learn these 10 verbs, okay? So the reason why I came up with this list is because a few students were asking me for the most important verbs in Spanish, okay? So, okay, this time I decided to introduce these verbs, okay? Good. What makes us believe that one verb is more important than the other one? Of course, which verb is more used in a basic or everyday conversation, okay? But also, which verb is used as with more than one function. What do I mean with more than one function? For example, in English, the verb to do is very important. It means to do, like when we are doing something, but it's also used as auxiliary verb when we build sentences in the past or in the negative, like do not do this, or did you go to work? Okay, so the verb to do is essential, right, for building sentences. The verb to have is essential. It's an auxiliary verb for many tenses, like for example the past perfect. Have you eaten today? Right? We use the verb to have. So some verbs have more than one function, and that makes them very important. So the first 4 verbs, the most important 4, I would say these are arguably the most important ones. So any list that does not include these as the most important is crap, okay? So ser means to be, and estar means to be, okay? Haber and tener also mean to have, right? So haber means to have, tener means to have. Ser means to be, estar means to be. So it's pretty obvious why these 4 verbs are so important. I would say the top 4, okay? Ser, estar, haber, tener. Now, with a lower importance, I would include these 2 maybe, okay? Right? As 5th and 6th place. Ir means to go, and poder means can, okay? So you can see how important the verb can is in English. It's a modal verb, okay? I cannot go, I cannot stay. Can I go, ta 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 ta? So can is very essential. So is poder in Spanish. And ir means to go, right? So not only the verb to go is essential, right? Because it's a verb we use a lot. But also it has another function. the verb to go, we use it in the future tense, right? For example, we can say, I will go to the supermarket, right? But we can also build the future tense with the verb to go. We can say this, I am going to go to the supermarket, right? We can say, I will go to work, or we can say, I'm going to go to work. We can say, I will eat, or I'm going to eat. I'm going to have lunch. I'm going to watch this film, okay? In Spanish, also, we can use the verb ir, to go, for the future tense, right? We can say, voy a comer, for I will eat. Voy a mirar televisión, I am going to watch TV, etc. So, you can see how important the verb ir is in Spanish, okay? So, poder, it's also quite obvious, is the verb to can, the verb can, sorry. Now, in a lower seventh position, I would include the verb querer, okay? Why is querer so important? Because querer, not only querer works with nouns like I want an apple, I want a book, I want a computer, but it works as if a modal verb. I mean, it works together with other verbs, right? Like, I want to eat, I want to go, I want to work, I don't want this anymore, I don't want to stay at home, etc. Right? So, querer is almost as a modal verb, right? It's to want. Okay? So, querer is essential. Now, here's where it gets more controversial, right? So, these verbs, somebody else can make up a different list with where these last verbs may differ. Okay, so I chose these verbs as 8th, 9th, and 10th place, and I'll tell you why. Again, not only these verbs are very used in basic conversation, right? But they also have like a second function, or they are used for special cases. Okay, what do I mean? Ver means to see. Okay, but it's also used like it's also used in cases we don't necessarily mean to see, but we are want to mean like I understand, I know, I'm aware of something. Like, for example, veo que te quedaste en casa. I can see that you have stayed home, right? Or I'm aware of the fact that you stayed home. Veo que estás enojado. I can see you are mad at me, okay? Now, the verb creer, which is to believe, right? Creo que me siento mal. I think I'm not feeling well. Creo que no fuiste a trabajar. I think you didn't go to work. Okay? And last, the verb decir, which means to say, right? Or to mean. Why do I mean to mean? Because if I say in Spanish, let's say I'm giving an explanation, and then I say, digo que lo que tú estás diciendo. When I say digo, I'm saying that I'm implying, or that I'm meaning this, or I'm wanting to say this. Okay? So digo means to say, but it's also used very frequently in the middle of a conversation, like to clarify, to reaffirm or to reassure what we are saying. Okay? So I would say the 4 core verbs are these 4, okay? So no list can omit these 4 verbs. Now, in a lower rank, I would say these 2, ir and poder, then maybe querer, and these would be a bit more controversial. Somebody else may have a different choice. Okay, for me, I chose these as to to complete the list of the 10 most important ones. Ser, estar, haber, tener, ir, poder, querer, ver, creer, and decir. So most of these are irregular verbs. Let's see, maybe all of them. So, as usual, in English, this happens also. The most important verbs are irregular verbs, okay? So maybe in a future lesson we'll conjugate these verbs and we'll see a few examples using these verbs. So thanks for watching and goodbye. Dear students, in this class I will be teaching you the difference between Ustedes and Vosotros and Tú and Usted. Actually, we have seen this many times all through my Spanish course. But I still get many questions from students that want to know when we use Ustedes or Vosotros, and mainly whether my Spanish course is teaching Spanish from Spain or Spanish from Latin America. So this here, I will leave this clear, and I will also give you some additional information, okay? So first of all, when we talk about Spanish, the language we are learning and the language that worldwide is commonly known as Spanish, technically it is Castilian Spanish, okay? Spanish, the word Spanish refers to any language from the Kingdom of Spain or from Spain. But Spain has many or several official tongues, right? The main one, of course, is Castilian Spanish, which is the one you're willing to learn, right? The one spoken in Latin America, in most of Spain, the one that is one of the official tongues in the UN, etc. Right? But any of the other official tongues in Spain, like Basque language, like Catalan, okay, and like some other few that are recognized, those are all Spanish also, because they are official languages of Spain, okay? So what we mean as Spanish, colloquially, technically it is Castilian or Castilian Spanish. Okay, now to make it simple, I'll keep on referring to Castilian Spanish simply as Spanish, okay? As you all know it. Okay, there is, even if there is Spanish, a variation of Spanish from Spain and another one from Latin America, it's basically one, right? The differences are very small. It's like English from England and English from the United States and English from Australia and English from New Zealand, etc. You won't say there are many different English languages. You won't say there is English language from New Zealand and English language from Australia, and then you have English language from United States, right? No, it's just one language with different accents and a preference for one or another word in one or another country, same as in different regions you will have a preference for one word or another one, right? Same as in English you have, in England they use lift, in the United States they say elevator, okay? So in Spanish it's the same, okay? In Spanish there is, depending on the country, there is a preference for one word or another word to address one same thing. Okay, but this is for a very few amount of things, right? So it's nothing to worry about. And then there is one subject pronoun that it differs, okay? For example, in Spain, to address you plural, right? Not you singular, you plural. When I'm addressing you, but a group of people. In Spain, they use vosotros, okay? While in Latin America, we use ustedes for you plural. Okay? It's just that. And of course, there is the verb conjugates a little bit differently if you use vosotros or ustedes. For example, if I'm talking to a group of people and they say, you went there, okay? You went there. In Spanish, in Latin America, we would say, ustedes fueron allí. Allí means there. In Spain, you would say, vosotros fuisteis allí. Okay? So the verb conjugates slightly differently whether you use ustedes or vosotros for you plural. Okay? Maybe ustedes would be the easier pick because the conjugation for ustedes is the same conjugation for ellos, for them, for they, right? The pronoun they, which in Spanish is ellos, conjugates exactly the same as ustedes, while vosotros has a unique conjugation of itself. So, I said that in Latin America we only use ustedes, and in Spain they use vosotros. Actually, I should say in most of Spain, because I recently learned something I wasn't aware of, that in Canary Islands and in part of Andalusia, which is a region from Spain, they also use ustedes informally, right? In the rest of Spain, in most of Spain, they would use vosotros informally and for almost all situations, and for a very few formal situations to show great respect, they would use ustedes, okay? So again, Latin America and a few regions or parts of Spain, they just use ustedes and they don't use vosotros. Okay? Now for the singular, you singular. In Spain, as in Latin America, so everywhere, we use tú for the informal and usted for the formal, right? So if I want to address a friend, a relative, somebody younger than me many times, okay, I will use tú, you. While usted, I would use it for my boss, somebody hierarchically much higher than me, a minister, a senator, if I ever happen to talk to one. Usually people, elderly people, to show respect due to their age, and many times simply people we are not acquainted with. So I go shopping, I go into a store or a shop, and I ask something to the salesman or salesperson, and I would usually address him or her as usted, right? Because we are not acquainted. So, tú, informal, usted is formal. Okay? In my course, I always teach you all these pronouns and how they are conjugated. So, you will see that in my course I teach you how they would use the pronoun in Spain and in Latin America. So, you will learn how to use this easily and naturally. So, don't worry about that. So, I said that in Latin America we use tú and usted, sorry. Everywhere in Latin America and Spain, right? Tú and usted, only that tú is informal, usted is formal, right? Everywhere in the Hispanic countries or Hispanic world, if you want to call it that way, okay? Actually, it's almost exact because there is a country, Argentina, where instead of tú for the informal, they would say vos, okay? Vos. Vos actually comes from ancient Spanish, okay? So vos is a remnant from ancient Spanish that has survived and is used in Argentina as simply as tú, as the informal, while in ancient Spanish it was extremely formal, right? So in Argentina then they would say vos for the informal you and usted for the formal you, okay? And the neighboring country from Argentina, which is Uruguay, which is where I come from, Uruguay, vos is also very much used, okay? Traditionally, we use tú and usted, like all the rest of the Hispanic world, but vos is also very much used as in Argentina, okay? So, well, this is here I wanted to explain to you the differences and the when and how we use ustedes, vosotros, tú, usted, vos, etc. If you have any questions, feel free to write to me and I'll be happy to reply any of your doubts. So thanks for watching and goodbye. Dear students, in this class I will teach you how comparatives and superlatives work and are formed in Spanish. And I will also teach you how diminutives work in Spanish. I probably taught this along my course in a few of our lessons, but this is going to be the first time I will be teaching this whole topic all together, concentrated in one class. So it's a very easy topic, but you have to know it in order to use it. So let's begin with comparative and superlative. In Spanish it's easier, in my opinion, than it is in English. In English we use the and est suffix for comparative and superlative, right? For example, big is the adjective. This would be bigger for the comparative and the biggest for the superlative, okay? In Spanish, the adjective remains the same. It doesn't change. We just add the word más, which means more, before the adjective. So, for example, if we have the adjective fast, okay, which is rápido. Rápido. Rápido means fast. Okay? So, in English, the comparative would be faster. Okay? In Spanish, we just add más. Más rápido. For faster. Okay? Now, the superlative would be the same, but we just add the article before, at the beginning, okay? Like this. El más rápido for the fastest. So you see how straightforward this is. In the same way that in English, for the superlative, you add the article before the superlative, in Spanish you also add the article, right, before más rápido. Okay? Of course, in Spanish we have feminine and masculine articles. Therefore, depending on the thing we are talking about, if it's masculine, it will be el. If it is feminine, it will be la. Okay? So, for example, the word for car, auto, is masculine. So, the fastest car would be el auto más rápido. Okay? El auto más rápido. Of course, if we are including the noun, okay, if the noun is going to be included in the sentence or the phrase, then the noun will go immediately after the article, okay? This is exactly the same as saying the fastest car. Car. Now, let's change the noun for a feminine noun. For example, the word bicycle, bicicleta, which is feminine. As all nouns in Spanish that end with letter A, right, it is feminine. So the fastest bicycle would be la bicicleta más rápida. Okay? La bicicleta más rápida for the fastest bicycle. Okay? Bicycle. Right? Sorry. Bicycle. Okay? Good. Same as in English, we have the short form of bicycle, which is bike. Okay? In Spanish, we also have the short form of bicicleta, which is bici. Okay? Bici is bike. So, la bicicleta más rápida, the fastest bike or bicycle. El auto más rápido, the fastest car. Now, let's omit. Let's leave outside the noun, the object. So we'll just say the fastest. Okay? Let's just leave out the word car. This is the fastest. In Spanish, we leave out auto. Este es, for this is, el más rápido. Okay? For example, este es el más rápido, which is this one is the fastest. Okay? So, este is this one. Es is the verb to be. Is. El más rápido, the fastest. So that's how the superlative works in Spanish. Let's see the comparative with a couple of examples. It's as easy as the superlative, or even easier, because we don't even add the article. Okay? So we just leave the word más, which means more, before the adjective. So, for example, if we want to say el auto rojo es más lento que el auto azul. El auto rojo es más lento, means slower, because lento is the adjective in Spanish for slow. In English, this means, sorry, let me erase this. The red car is slower than the blue car, or than the blue one. Okay? So, el auto rojo is the red car. Okay? Remember, in Spanish, we usually, or I would say always, generally, the noun goes before the adjective, right? So first the noun, later the adjective. In English, first the adjective, later the noun. So the red car, el auto rojo, is slower, más lento, right? Que is the comparative, then, right? Don't mistake this with que. The que with a tilde means what. Okay? What. But this que without the tilde means then, for comparative. El auto azul, the blue car. Now, since I'm already talking of the car, so I can omit the word car, and I simply say el auto rojo es más lento que el azul, and I don't need to repeat the word auto. This is the same as saying in English, the red car is slower than the blue one. Okay? As in English, we can also say the red car is slower than the blue car, or slower than the blue one. Okay? So, más lento, slower. El más lento, the slowest. So this is how comparative works in Spanish. So easy. Now, I will show you how diminutive works in Spanish. In English, we have diminutives, right? It works by adding the y at the end of the noun, okay? Only that I think it doesn't work for most of the nouns, okay? So, it works for bird because you say birdie, okay? It works for dog because you say doggy, okay? And it works for another few nouns. But you cannot say a boy, a girly. Girly, I think you do say, right? A sofa-y, a table-y, right? Doesn't work. Just say a tiny table, a tiny sofa, okay? In Spanish, the rule for the diminutive works for all the nouns. So, the diminutives in Spanish, it's adding this suffix, ito, if it is masculine, or ita, if it is feminine, okay? For masculine and for feminine. So now let's think of any noun. For example, the noun perro, which means dog, okay? Perro would be, if it is a he dog, a male, it is perrito. If it is a a she dog, a female, it is perrita. Okay? This is a diminutive, okay? Because the word for dog is perro, the word for bitch or the she dog is perra, okay? But the diminutives are perrito for a doggy, for a male doggy, and a female doggy would be perrita. Any other noun for cat, gato would be gatito for a male cat, gata would be gatita. Can you see that the last vowel that that indicates whether it's male or female or masculine or feminine word is deleted, right? We don't say gatoito or gatuita. We get rid of the last vowel. Let's take any other noun. For example, sofa. The word for sofa in Spanish is sofá. So similar to English, sofá. Okay, now look at this. Sofá would be irregular because it adds a letter C. We don't say sofito. We say sofacito. Okay? Sofacito. You don't have to learn the irregulars and all that because the diminutives is something really not so relevant for somebody that's learning Spanish, right? But I just want you to see how this rule of adding ITO or ITA in Spanish applies to absolutely all the nouns, all the objects, okay? So everything can be turned in Spanish to a diminutive. Boy, for example, boy, this is in English, boy. In Spanish, boy is niño, okay? And girl is niña. So a tiny boy would be niñito. Un niñito, a little boy. Or niña would be una niñita. Okay? For a girly, little girl, tiny girl. So, not necessarily it means small in size or in age, although usually it would. In Spanish, the diminutive is also used as when we love or cherish somebody very much. Sometimes we turn somebody's name into a diminutive. For example, let's say I have a friend, a very close friend of mine, for example, called Pedro, right? Pedro is Peter for Spanish, in Spanish, okay? So let's say that my friend Pedro and I, we are very close friends since we were 3 years old, okay? So we're very special friends. So since I know him for such a long time, then I usually call him Pedrito, right? Pedrito. Doesn't mean that he's a tiny guy. It means like something from the heart, you know? It's a likable way of addressing somebody. Okay, of course it's very informal, and you wouldn't do it in a formal situation. Okay. Well, this is all about comparative, superlative, and diminutive in Spanish. I hope you enjoyed the class. If you have any questions, you can write to me. I will answer all your doubts. Remember, go to my website to find the full index of lessons. There you will find all my classes in order, numerical order. And you will also find all the tests and quizzes for each one of my Spanish classes. Okay, so I strongly recommend you to go to my website and try do those tests to exercise, to practice, and that will help you take in all these new concepts and teachings, okay? So thank you. If you like the video, just click a like, a thumbs up, and if you subscribe to my channels, still better. So thanks, and I'll see you in the next class. Goodbye. In today's class, I will teach you the Spanish numbers. And first I will go through all the numbers, and then I will explain a few things that you better take into consideration to avoid some typical mistakes. So stay with me until the end, where I will be explaining a few interesting things. Bien, los números en español. Primero voy a explicar, voy a leer todos los números y luego voy a estar explicando algunas cosas importantes para evitar errores típicos en español. La palabra números es esdrújula, tiene el acento en la antepenúltima sílaba. Antepenúltimo means last but one. What I just said is that the word números has the stress in the last but one syllable. Números. In Spanish, all the words that have the stressed syllable in the last but one syllable carry the tilde, the accent mark, okay? In Spanish, we call tilde to this and not to this. In English, we call tilde to this, and this is called accent mark, okay? Okay, let's start. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now, take a look. The number 10 ends with a Z. El 10 termina en Z. However, the Z changes to a C. La Z pasa a ser una C. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, for 15. Now, see how it adds the number at the end. 16 for 16. 17, it adds a 7 for 17. 18, 19, and 20 is 20. 20. For 21, 21. Check out how the 20s all form one single word, okay? 21, 22, 23 for 23, 24 for 24. It's all one single letter, one single word, okay? All the 20s, 25, 25, 26, 27, etc. Only the 20s form one single word. Now the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, etc., they all split into more than one word, like here. 30 for 30. 32 for 32, okay? So 32 would be the word 30, the conjunction the conjunction and, which in Spanish is the letter Y, and the number 2, right? 34 would be 34. Literally would be 30 and 4. 39 would be 39, okay? Again, the word 30, the word y, and the word nueve. And the same with all the others. 40 for 40, 41 for 41, literally 40 and 1, okay? 42 for 42, 50 for 50. So remember, the 20s are the only ones that make one single word, okay? So after 50, after 50, we have 60. And again, 61, 62, 63, etc. 70, 80, 90 for 90, 100. 100. Now, for 200, 200. And see how 200, you have the S that belongs to the number 2, dos, and the C that belongs to cientos, okay, the hundreds. So here you have an S and a C together. This is one word. Again, 300, you have 300, again, you have the S from the number 3, tres, and the C from the hundreds, from cientos, 300. 400 for 400, 500 for 500. 600, again you have the S and the C. 600. 700. It's not 700, it is 700, okay? 800, 900, and 1000. 1000 for 1000 or 1000, okay? Take into consideration that in Spanish you separate the thousands by a dot, okay? And you use the comma to separate the decimals. In English, I understand it's the other way around. You use the comma to separate the thousands and the dot to separate the decimals. So the word 1000, 1000, you can write it. You can write it without a dot or with a 1, a dot, and 3 zeros. And if you want to write 9.12 in Spanish, you would write 9,12, okay, for the decimals. One more thing. The word uno for one, it's for when you're counting. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. La palabra uno en español se usa cuando estamos contando. However, if we are talking of something and we follow this by a noun, like for example, one car. In Spanish, we use un without the O for masculine, or una ending in an A for feminine. So, if we are talking about a car, one car, in Spanish the noun car is masculine. Because nouns that end in O, like auto, are masculine. So it is un auto for one car. Now, if it is a feminine noun, like for example, escoba for broom, the broom, to broom the floor. Escoba ends with an A, therefore it is a feminine noun. Then we will say una escoba for one broom. So un auto or una escoba, okay? We do not say uno auto or uno escoba. Uno is for counting. Un or una is when we are mentioning one of something and we are following it by the noun, okay? So one more thing that I will mention in a following class is that millions, billions, trillions, etc. vary in Spanish and in English. It's not the same. The millions are the same. The billions are not. In Spanish, un billón translates in English to 1 trillion. And in English, 1 billion would be 1000 millones in Spanish, or 1,000 million. How numbers or big figures are organized and used in Spanish, right? When I mean big figures, I mean like billions, trillions, and that. And while we may not use these in everyday conversation, however, when we are reading the news, especially news related to economics, there we see or we read these huge figures a lot, okay? And I see that Spanish news that are translated from English are imprecise very, very often. And I'll tell you why. In English, 1 billion, 1 billion is how many zeros? We have 3 zeros for the thousands, 6 zeros for the millions, 9 zeros for the billions, right? So, therefore, 1 trillion would be 3 zeros more, right? So, this is for the units, 3 zeros for the thousands, 6 zeros for the millions, 9 zeros for the billions, and 12 zeros for the trillions. Okay? So again, don't think this is ridiculous. I mean, I know we don't use this in everyday conversation, but we do read about it, or we do write about it if we are journalists, or if we are just normal people reading financial information, okay? Which happens to me a lot. Okay, so for quadrillions would be 3 more zeros, quintillions, 3 more zeros, etc. So in English we just add 3 more zeros, okay? And we continue escalating. Now in Spanish. Now comes Spanish. Look how different this is, and how different the actual number, the actual figure can become if we don't use the correct name for it. Look at this. So, for 1 million, there's no problem. Un millón, okay? Un millón is 1 million. It's six zeros as in English. So, 1, of course, the units, 3 zeros for the thousands, 6 zeros for the millions, okay? So far, so good. Well, just remember that while in English we use the comma to separate the thousands, so the 3 zeros in English are separated by commas, okay? And the decimals in English are separated by the dots, right? In Spanish, it's the other way around. In Spanish, we use the dots to separate the 3 zeros, the thousands, and we use the comma for the decimals. So, remember that. Now, if we add 3 more zeros, look what happens. Look. Here we have the thousands, now we have the millions, now we have the billions in English, right? However, this is mil millones. Mil millones. Mil means 1,000. So, this in English is called 1 billion. In Spanish it is called 1,000 millions. Okay? It's also called, it has another name, un millardo. Un millardo. Okay? So these two names are synonyms. However, usually this one is used more often. This one is used much less. But they mean the same thing. Now, let's add 3 more zeros. Look. 3 zeros for the thousands, 6 zeros for the millions, 9 zeros for the billions in English, or thousands of millions in Spanish, and 12 zeros would give us billions in English. Sorry, trillions. These are trillions in English. In Spanish, however, this would be un billón. Un billón. So look at the confusion. If a journalist is translating financial data of GDP growth or whatever, right? And he reads in English, or he hears in English, that he hears $1 billion, say, okay? $1 billion. This is 1 billion. Then he clumsily translates this as un billón de dólares. Okay? There are 3 more zeros in this statement than there is in this one, right? 1 billion is a huge figure, but it's 1,000 times bigger if you say un billón in Spanish. Okay? So, and when you're talking of trillón, look at this. Un trillón. Let's see how many zeros we have here. We have 3 zeros for the thousand. Sorry, in Spanish I should use the dot, not the comma. Okay? The dot. 3 zeros for the thousands, 6 zeros for the millions, 9 zeros for what we call thousands of millions, 12 zeros for what we call in Spanish billones, or in English trillions. Now, if I add 3 more zeros, it's just thousands of billones. So, miles de billones. So, 3 more zeros to have un trillón. So, look at this. 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 18 zeros is for un trillón, while in English 1 trillion has only 12 zeros. Okay? So imagine what magnitude of grotesque errors and mistakes you can see when translating clumsily data and figures from English to Spanish or from Spanish to English. If you're not aware of this difference with big, huge figures between English and Spanish. So